Hi guys and welcome back. So in the last video we talked about mingled washes, and I promised that in this video what we're going to do is we're going to actually use those mingled washes to create a painting. Not only are we going to use those mingled washes, we're going to be using the flat and the gradient washes as well. The reason why I want to do this is because I want to show you that the last couple of video lessons were not in vain. These things are using flat washes, using graded washes, using mingled washes is something that you do all the time in watercolor. And if you can master those techniques, you're well on your way to becoming better and better at watercolor. So let's go and have a look at the little video that I created where I use those washes as well as some other techniques to create a very simple landscape painting. Right, so as we mentioned in the last video, we're going to use all those different washes that we've just learned. So we've learnt the flat wash, we've learnt the graded wash, and now the mingled wash. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those three types of washes, and we actually are going to create a painting because I want to show you exactly where they are used. And not only exactly where they are used, but the things that you have learnt, they are going to come in handy. They're there for a reason. We need to learn these things, and there's a reason why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a very, very simple watercolor landscape, and we're going to start off with a graded wash. So you remember the graded wash, it went from dark to light, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dark to light wash of a cobalt blue coming down to create the sky. So I'll grab my other palette. This is my cobalt blue wash that I've created from before. And I'm going to do it the way, I'm going to do two different things. First of all, I'm going to actually start with that lovely way of just putting down paint, pigment, and then we're going to move it around. Okay. So that lovely bead going on there. Add some water into it. To continue to add water into this thing as we move down the surface of mine. Continue that all the way to the bottom. And there you go, I have a lovely graded wash. I could have had it more graded, but I actually quite like that effect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to let that dry because it's going to take a while. Actually, before I do that, let's get our thirsty brush and pick up that bead. Remove anything on the sides. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to wait and leave that to dry. You can leave it to dry naturally, but in this case I'm just actually going to go off camera, get a hairdryer and just dry it off so that we can not have to waste so much time you watching me dry things. Alright, so that wash is dry to touch. I can put my back of my hand on that and it feels quite nice and dry. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to do another graded wash, but I'm going to put it over the top of that because I want to have a sort of like a more sunsetty, lovely sort of feel. I know that it seems some people, I remember doing a class once where I've said to a student that, you know, as your sky gets closer and closer to your landscape, the sky will warm up. And he was like, oh, that's just not true, that's not true. But if you actually, when you go out and have a look at the landscape, other than, you know, certain times, the section that sits closer to the land is actually warmer because the reflection, because of the distance and the atmospheric perspective and everything that's going on. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a beautiful sort of warmer coloured strip through here, and I'm going to gradate it back from here to here. So I'm going to start off with a light water wash and go back this way. I'm going to flip my board around just because I can. I'm going to show you that you can do that kind of stuff. There are no rules in watercolor, that's a great thing. So I'm going to grab my board and I'm going to flip it around so that we're going to be able to do that beautiful wash. I'm going to start off, get my water back again. I'm going to start off by lightly wetting the top area. Now this wash here is actually quite light, which is great. This is exactly what I want. If I put more pigment into that, it's going to be quite dark. I don't want it to be too dark. I actually want it to be quite watery to begin with, because when I'm going to add some more water into that, so that when I add it into here, it's going to be a light sort of wash that's coming down. I'm going to just push that back a little bit into there, and then I'm going to continue grabbing more of this wash and putting it in. Okay, now as I get closer to the blue, I'm going to start doing that. Oops, try not to put your brush, like just what I just did then. I put my brush too far into that water, so I'm just going to grab some more of that pigment, put it down, grab my bead. Now I'm going to lightly dip my brush into the water and then bring it down. Lightly dip, bring it down, lightly dip. And I'm going to continue that down the rest of my paper. I'm going to then pick up that bead and we're all done. Watch the edges. Sometimes it's a good idea just to wipe the edges, because sometimes you'll have run backs into your painting. Oops, don't do that. But that's all right, it'll be fine. So as you can see, I've got a lovely graded wash coming back over the top of that painting there. The underpainting, the undergraded wash. Now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to dry that off, and I'm going to come back in and show you what it looks like. I'm going to go off camera, do it with a hairdryer just to speed things up. Okay, as you can see, I've come back and I've dried off that wash, so you can see how that beautiful pink wash that I have put over the top of that blue wash has changed the color of the blue. I did go back in and do a little bit more of a darker wash just around this section, and then heated it off here because I found that was a little bit too light, but I'm pretty happy with how that is looking. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and go, okay, I'm doing a landscape, and I'm just looking for a pencil. I'm doing a landscape, and in the distance of my landscape, I'm going to have some lovely distant hills, and so therefore I'm just going. I can just do it, you know, freehand. But I think I might just so that I can show you what I'm doing. And what we're going to do is, in that section of the landscape, we're going to do an actual flat wash. At the bottom of the flat wash, we're going to soften it slightly, just so it doesn't have a hard edge, but the top edge and all that other stuff is going to be this beautiful distant hills and all that sort of stuff in the distance. So let's have a look. Let's just go something like that. Okay, so that's my distant hillside that I have in my landscape. I'm going to have a tree through here in the foreground, and then lovely foreground, but in the distance I'm going to have this beautiful distant hillside. I'm going to create that using just a very flat wash. I'm going to bring back my cobalt blue. I might actually just put it there. Hope you can see that. And there's my water. It's really quite difficult painting on camera. Anyway, I want to create, I'm going to create a couple of hills actually. So before I do that one, I'm going to create a bluer kind of hill in the distance, and it's going to be a flat wash as well. Okay, just a flat wash. A little bit lighter. Oh no, this is the reason why you don't have your water on the side when you're right-handed, on the opposite side, on this side. Anyway, let's see how we go. And then wash my brush, grab a towel, and soften that edge at the bottom like I said. But that's just a very simple flat wash in those distant hills there. I'm going to bring in another wash over the top of this one. I'm going to create a bigger thing. I'm probably going to make it a little bit higher than that because that hill there is a little bit low. And into this one, I'm just going to bring a little bit more warmth into it. So I'm going to grab a bit of this ochre, thank you, forgetting my colours, and bring that in and make it a little bit warmer. Again, a lovely flat wash. Slightly darker than that distant hill. Again, as I said, I'm just going to soften that lightly at the bottom just because I don't want to have a hard edge here. Use a paper towel to just lightly that a little bit more into this section here. And there are my two flat washes over my surface. I'm just going to let that dry, and then we're going to come in and we're going to create the tree and the foreground in front. I'm going to just go off camera, get a what is it called, a hairdryer, and actually dry that off, and then we'll come back in and we'll put the trees over the top. Okay, so that's nicely dried. You can kind of see the difference between those two things, but it actually looks quite lovely. You're sitting back in the distance. Now I'm going to just draw over the top of this basic shape for my tree, and then we're going to come in and finish the things. And within the tree, this is where we're going to put our lovely mingled washes and things like that. So, the other thing, it's not really you don't always have to use pencil to draw things in. I'm not that confident with just going in and painting straight on my surface. I do prefer to have a few outlines there for me to see where I'm going with things. But if you feel really confident, just go and start painting your trees and everything over the top. If you are going to draw on your surface, I highly recommend using anything softer than a 2B, so 2B and up, so you're looking at your 4Bs and things like that. HB is going to tend to actually damage the surface of your canvas, so I would try and shy away from that if you can. A 8B on the other hand is going to be a bit too smudgy, and you're actually going to smudge the graphite into your paper. So again, it's another thing where, if you want to have smudges on your canvas, feel free to use an 8B. I tend to just go for things that are just easier. Alright, so generalized shapes of my little tree. I'm also going to have some little twigs coming up through here. Right, so this is, now I'm going to start doing some mingled washes and things like that. I'm actually, based on that, I'm going to do a bit of a wash in the distance to kind of create the look of fields and things like that. So let's go and do that now. Okay, I'm going to use a lovely pink. It's like a yellow ochre. So yellow ochre, a bit of blue. It's a nice sort of. This is where I can charge other colours into this thing. This is the kind of mingled wash that I was talking about. Even at this stage, I'm creating just different colours into that field, just to create interest. If I painted all the one colour, it'd be quite boring, and so this is why I'm sort of charging in all these different colours. I might even bring a little bit of a warmer sort of reddy kind of colour to the foreground, just to see what it does. And that red soil that you see in Australian landscapes. Bring some more mingled in wash. This is where watercolor really shines. You can mingle paints and colors into each other, and this is the sort of stuff that you can't do in other mediums, because it doesn't allow itself to have that serendipitous sort of, not the serendipitous, but it doesn't allow that you to mix as easily. Again, this is where I'm charging in those colours, just to create a different variation within the landscape. Okay, I'm going to go back into the distance just to put in some other colours. It's sort of getting into that lovely dry sort of state, perfect for what I want. Just to wash this a little bit, and I'm going to get because I'm going to get some distant trees. I want them to be a bit cooler. I'm going to drop a colour there. Tell me if it's too early. See, that's a bit too early. It's still blending in, so I want to wait a little bit longer for it to dry. Just grab your hairdryer. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. That's looking quite lovely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm just actually going to wait for this section here to dry a bit, because I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the mingled wash over the top with the for the tree. Okay, so I'm going to put a light wash over the top of the tree. I'm going to use like a yellow ochre. I'm just going to wipe that off a bit. Create a yellow ochre wash. Again, and then come in and just particularly down the trunk. The reason why I'm putting a yellow ochre wash on, because I want a warm base for my paint, for my tree, and then I'm going to come in and charge over the top of that other colours. Right, now while it's still wet, I'm going to grab some of that beautiful green. Just start charging colours into the tree. I also have a very interesting brush, there it is, which I'm going to use to sort of create differences. I'm still charging, I'm creating interest within that tree. I can come in and charge different colours, like I can go, okay, I want a bit more red into that. I'll put some red into it. Just to create interest. You don't want your trees to look flat. Now if I need to soften some edges, I'll soften those edges. Like just in here a bit, I just want to soften that. It's looking a little bit harsh. Those colours into that mix. Just when I'm doing this, what I'm thinking is I'm thinking of how, you know, the tone of it. So obviously I'm thinking, okay, I need to have dark tones somewhere and light tones other places. So, you know, obviously with a tree, you're going to have, like, you know, if the light's coming from here, you're going to have light on this side and dark on that side, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So you got to think about these things when you're painting, but you can kind of see that this is just a beautiful mix of different colours, and that's what mingled washes do. Create interest and right. Quite happy with that mingled wash. Not so happy with that little spot right there. Just soften it slightly. Work. I'm just bringing in darker colours, just where I think that they need to be, into that tree, and just painting the darker side of the actual trunk. Again, just using darker colours and quite a thick mixture, actually, thick sort of paint. And blending it where I need to. I'm going to use that same mixture to create that. And just some of these little branches, I felt like there was a bunch of little branches off this thing. Yeah, I actually can do that. I'm going to create some. Needs a bit more water. The bushes, just on the base of that tree through there. I'm going to create another mingled wash on this bank here, just to create that further, you know, there's more, like this bank is closer to me than all those other banks. If I create it as a single wash, it just is flat. It doesn't have any interest. People, you know, you're kind of trying to create a lot of interest in your painting by using different colors, not just the a single color, but just that kind of like. Okay, really happy with that. That's actually working really well. I'm just going to create some difference in the farmland at the back. Darker field. Okay, so the rest of the painting ultimately is me just refining and refining and refining. But you can kind of see the picture. You can see that I've created this simple, very simple painting with those washes. I've used the flat wash, the graded wash, mingled washes, and then I've come over the top and I'm putting in line work, which is what I'm going to do now. And I'll fasten up the video for you guys so that you can see what happens in that process. So how did you enjoy that? Was that helpful? I really hope it was, because it's really hard to see your faces, obviously, and it's really hard for me to gauge what information am I getting through and if I'm giving you too much information or too little. Obviously when in a classroom situation I have a lot more freedom. I can see what's happening with you and I can see where you're going with your paintings. I'd really love to see what you end up doing, particularly after you do your little landscape, and I don't know how I can possibly see that, but it would be really great if I could. But anyway, I'm just hoping that you've actually really had fun with this. You're actually starting to see how all those washes are really helpful, how you can do a whole bunch more. I'm going to continue doing some more videos in watercolors. We're going to look at other things, and hopefully I'm going to give you some more information. Obviously not hopefully, I'm going to give you some more information about watercolor techniques, as well as papers, paints, you know, those kind of things. Just the little things that you always need to know. But I just thought I'd get you excited about watercolor, and from here on in we're going to start exploring the great serendipitous nature of watercolor and the things that we can do with it. So I can't wait to get some more videos out there to you guys. I hope you're really enjoying it, and I look forward to seeing you next time. See ya.